Hello, fabulous YouTube. I assume since you clicked on this video that you're looking for some tips to nail your job interview. First, I want to say congratulations on getting your interview. You can guarantee that because you got that interview, you are certified and qualified and ready to take that job. So today I'm going to share with you 4 strategies that you can put in place to help you nail your job interview. If we are just meeting, my name is Penny Brown. I teach 6th through 12th grade math and science in a small fly-in village in South Central Alaska. Now, I am not pretending to be an expert on hiring or on interviews. However, I have been on several hiring committees over the last 22 years, and I have helped colleagues and peers prepare for their interview, and they've been very successful. And we've come up with plans and strategies to do that, and that's what I'm going to share with you today. They're simple strategies, but they're not easy. They're a lot of work to be prepared. I do have a PDF thought catcher listed on my website, on my free resource library. If you'd like to pause this and go there and download that, you're more than welcome to. Strategy number 1 is going to be to do your homework. And your homework is going to begin with the job posting. A lot of times the job postings might be pretty generic. A lot of times what happens is the human resources department of a district will have kind of a generic job posting, and then that'll go to the principal or the hiring committee, and then they will add whatever is important to them to that job description. And so if you have been following a district for any amount of time and you notice in the job description the job that you're applying for has something a little bit different in it, then you'll know that that's something that's important to that position or to that principal or to that hiring committee. So those are good things to kind of notice and take note of. The other thing that I'm going to ask you to do your homework on, or anything that you can find out about the school. What kind of discipline program they use, what kind of curricular materials do they use, what kind of programs do they have. Anything that you can use to connect with what's already going on there is going to be positive for you. So hopefully they're programs that you've at least heard of. If you've never used them, if you have used them, then you have experience, and that's wonderful. If you haven't used them, you've done your homework and you're familiar with them. So that's a really bonus for you, because if you're asked about that, then you'll say something like, well, I personally don't have experience using this in the classroom, but in doing my research or in talking to teachers who do use it, this is what I'm excited about, or this is what I found. And so that's going to put the hiring committee at ease that you've done your homework, that you're a little bit familiar, and that you look like you're going to be a team player. And that's going to be really important to them. Strategy number 2 is to be ready to answer the most commonly asked questions. Here are some common questions that I think you need to be ready to answer. The first one, tell us a little about yourself. This is not a trick question. Go ahead and tell them a little bit about yourself. What interests, passions, hobbies, experiences do you have that would contribute to the culture of the school? More than likely, the interview committee is made up of future colleagues. They want to know if you are someone they would like to work with. Much of my experience is in small schools. In a small school, everyone wears a lot of hats and has a lot of responsibility. When you are being interviewed at a small school, they are wondering, what hats will you wear? Even larger schools are wondering how you will fit in and add to the culture of the school. How are you as a person going to serve the students of this school? So yes, your love of sports, reading, gardening, whatever it is important. So share those important parts and let the interview committee feel your passion and excitement for your interests. Another question you should be prepared to answer, do you have any questions for us? So that first question, tell us about yourself, and do you have any questions for us, usually sandwich the interview. The answer to this question should always be yes. It shows that you're interested, and it can turn that end of your interview into something of a conversation, which is exactly what you want. So here are some questions that you can ask. You can ask clarifying questions to the things that you found when you researched the school or district. You can ask about behavioral and academic supports that the school offers struggling students. You can ask what they think the most challenging part of the position that you are applying for is. You can ask what they consider the most important characteristic of a successful candidate. Ask them to share their favorite aspect of the school or their position. Another question that you should be prepared to ask is about your greatest weakness. This question comes up often and people struggle with how to answer it. I mean, here you are trying to sell yourself as the best candidate and they're asking for a weakness. And what do you do with that, right? So, first and foremost, you are human. And hopefully, you've had enough experiences that some of those experiences did not go your way. So, show your humanness. And the key to this question is to mention the weakness, but focus on what you did or are doing to overcome it. Your growth, your reflection, and your self awareness are key to successfully answering this question. On the other side of that, you may be asked for your greatest strength. The question may be just that straightforward. What is your greatest strength as a teacher? Or it may not be worded quite that way. What makes you the best candidate? Why should we hire you? In this question as well, embrace your humanness, right? What strength do you have and how does it benefit your classroom or your school team? Make a list of your strengths. Examples might be hardworking, patience, dedication, content knowledge. But the golden ticket is going to be share how that strength benefits your classroom students or your school team. That's really what they want to know. What exactly the strength is irrelevant compared to your understanding of how that benefits your classroom or how that benefits your school team. That's what's going to be important. So this is Miss Cookie. And she really wants you to do well on your job interview too, but she's really tired of me recording today. And since she wasn't feeling well earlier, I'm going to multitask here a little bit. Number 3 is to brainstorm general categories of questions. So all of our questions, I went through as many different question banks as I could, and I categorized all of the questions into different categories. And these categories are a little bit broad, but if you think through your beliefs and your stories and your experiences in these categories, then no matter how the question is worded, you'll be able to answer it effectively. So the general categories that I found were collaboration, human or child development, planning, prep, and instruction, classroom environment, and technology. So I'm going to go into these in just a little bit of detail. The first one was collaboration. So working with others is a key characteristic in teaching, and many interview committees find it an important topic to touch on. You may be asked about working with paraprofessionals, parents, therapists, administrators, etc. Of these types of questions. What skills are needed to work with other people? What qualities do you look for in a principal? What do you believe is important to enhance collaboration among teachers? What skills do you bring to the school team? How do you communicate with parents? How will you encourage parents to participate in the learning process? So the key to this category is to remember that being able to successfully collaborate with others benefits students. It's always try to put it back to the students. Connected teachers are more aware of what's available to students, and they find ways to connect students to the resources that they need. Collaboration is also a form of self-care. So the next general category that I found was human or child development. And I found in my research that this type of question was more likely to come up if you were applying for an elementary position. And so some of the questions that I came across look like, how might a 6th grade classroom look different than a 2nd grade classroom? What would you do differently or similarly if you were teaching 1st or 2nd grade versus 5th or 6th grade? What ages or grade levels are you most comfortable with and why? So the next category that I came across in my research was the planning, prep, and instruction. And this is a giant category and honestly the one that probably more questions fell into than any other. These questions are going to help clarify if you understand what you are teaching, who you are teaching, how you will teach it, and how you will know if the students understand it, and how you plan next steps for students who do not or who do understand. So like I said, it's a giant category. When you do well in this topic, you understand connections between content and you understand the most appropriate strategies for delivering content to your students. So the examples of questions that fell under this giant category: how do you plan a unit of instruction? Tell us about a lesson that went well and how do you know it went well? Tell us about your favorite lesson and why it was your favorite lesson. How do you plan for students with special needs, above or below grade level? How do you connect your lessons to the real world? What methods do you use to check for understanding? How do you assess progress? How will you engage reluctant learners? How do you use assessment data to inform instruction? What strategy might you use for teaching your content? So think through these types of questions. Like I said, if you have the thought catcher that's on my website, you have these questions already typed out for you and you can just jot your thoughts down in there. But having these general ideas of how you do this will help you be prepared for these types of questions. Okay, the next general category was classroom environment. And this category covers all the pieces that set the stage for learning. It shows that you can and know the importance of teaching and managing student procedures. You establish a culture of respect and rapport that centers around learning. It also includes the physical space of your classroom. So examples might be, if I walked into your classroom, what would I see? What are your plans for the first day or the first week of school? What is your classroom management philosophy or structure? How will you ensure that your classroom is culturally responsive? How will you work with paraprofessionals or volunteers in your room? What are some important routines to have in the classroom? Last general category that we're going to touch on is technology. Technology is a piece of the education puzzle, and when used appropriately, it can be a very powerful tool. It expands resources and connections for teachers and students. It can help with engagement, with personalization, and with different learning styles. It can offer many options for teachers and students in the process and products of learning. So examples were, how do you use technology in the classroom? How do you manage technology in the classroom? What are the benefits? How do you feel about technology? So one thing I do want to mention is that the questions that I was able to get, that I made all these general categories from, are pre-COVID. And I'm filming this during COVID. So our classroom environment, our technology, and our planning, prep, and instruction have all been affected by COVID and the shifts that we've had to make because of it. So our planning and prep, a lot of people now are preparing for at-home learners and face-to-face learners, right? We have hybrid teaching going on. And technology and our planning and prep and our classroom environment have all been affected by that. So please take that into consideration. I haven't physically seen questions that apply to that, but I would be really surprised if that didn't become part of the questioning or the interview process. Strategy number 4 is to prepare yourself mentally and physically. If it is a interview that you drive to, you have fuel in the vehicle ahead of time, the day before, you know what route you're going to take, you know how long that route takes you to get there. Your clothes that you're wearing that day are already cleaned and pressed and ironed, and they're sitting at the back of your closet just waiting for you to put on. There's no last minute decisions you have to make because you're just ready. As far as what you wear, dress professional, but don't stress out about it because it's not as important as you think, right? As long as it's clean and it's professional looking, you're fine. Wear something that you feel confident in. Before you go into your interview, take some deep breaths, do some power poses, and just know that you've got this. You have the qualifications or you wouldn't have got the interview. The only other thing that I want to mention is that there's a chance that you'll get asked an oddball question, like something really strange. If you were a tree, what kind of tree would you be? Or if you whatever. And just know that if that happens, that it's probably a group of people that have a good sense of humor and they're trying to ask you something that they know you didn't prepare for. And so don't stress about it too much. Take a deep breath and maybe just be honest and say, oh, you guys have a good sense of humor because that really throws me off. And then just, try to be yourself and come up with something. Like I said, they want you to think on your feet. So for your exit ticket, tell me if you've ever had, what's the strangest interview question you've ever been asked? And put them in the comments below. And also let me know if this video was helpful for you. I really hope it was. Okay, good luck on your interview.